All right, everyone, welcome back. Swenley and I are here looking at Chapter 3 in the Force Companion book. You may recognize this drawing. This is the cover of the book as well.
Yes.
Besides talking maybe in another video, Swenley, about the different options you and I went through to trying to find what the cover was going to look like, was there any particular reason you drew this pose?
This one, I think this post was an exercise for, I think it was one of the portfolio projects on drawingforce.com
Mm.
back then. And the idea here was to play with scale,
Mm-hmm.
actually. And when I saw the photograph, the idea for scale was very clear, just draw that right food coming right at us.
Mm-hmm. So how accurate do you feel this drawing is in scale relative to the photo? Was the model's foot this large?
No, I exaggerated it.
Okay.
And here I'm doing it even more.
Yeah, exactly. It's not enough. Let's make sure that her foot weighs about 80 pounds so she can't hold this up anymore. Right.
Yeah, this drawing was, I found this drawing to be pretty good already. I didn't see anything to like correct
Yeah,
functionally. So I thought, let me just see if I can push it further
right.
until it breaks.
Yeah, I think you're going to test that in this drawing by the looks of that leg. Yeah, it's about 80 pounds in that one leg. She's like, right? It's going to crash down.
Yeah, I think I wanted to make it even bigger, but I started to get to the edge of the canvas there, and I was
Right.
like, let me hold back a bit.
Yeah, hold on. This drawing needs like some kind of thing over here that can hold it up, right? She needs like an extra little metal leg over here that'll support it. It's a drop shadow of it. Like
Yeah.
that. There we go. Now she's okay. Okay. So chapter 3 is on shape. But there's a couple of things happening here, right? You mentioned scale, right? So we have scale. And for those of you that don't know what the heck scale means, because you might be thinking of a scale, what we're talking about really is size, right? Like change in size, right? So here you have one foot that is this size, and you have another foot here that is like this size, right? And I stuck a box around each one, which is from the character design book, this idea of a bounding box, right? We can see that the one on the ground is much, much smaller, right? The surface area alone on the page is just so small in comparison to what you did over here with this closer foot, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Just yeah. After all that,
You said it all, Mike. You said it all.
I'm talking too much. That means again. So, so scale is one thing, but obviously, what you're doing with your skill here is you're giving a scale, but you've given a scale with structure, right? Like we talked about turning edge in the last video. You could see here that you've kind of boxed out her like sock or whatever this is, or the wrapping from the ballet shoe. You know, it's
Indeed.
got a corner over there, right?
Sorry, I moved it.
No, come on, man. Right now I drew
Yeah.
my perfect little box there, right? So here it's like this. Right, so there's a couple of things going on. Scale is just size, right? So you have small and big, and immediately our brain thinks big is closer, right? So we as artists, we can play with that as a trick, as sort of an illusion, right, to the idea of depth on the page, which is really, really powerful. I have to say, for you, those of you who've never heard about that, I can promise you, as soon as you're done with this video and you go and try that out, you're going to see just how amazing that simple trick is of playing with size or scale, right, to create depth. But it works best, of course, in tandem with structure and perspective, right?
Yeah, indeed, and that's also the value of practicing force form.
Right.
After sculpting the figure with all the surface lines, now you come to the point where you can just visualize it. Like I didn't have to draw the turning edge of the leg. I just show the form using shape.
Yeah, so that's interesting. That one's really sort of bends my mind, right? So you're saying that shape um, basically creates form, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that one feels like, what are you talking about? Because I know for me, and I'm sure most others, if you think of shape, you're thinking basically about circles, triangles, and squares. And these are all not only symmetrical, which makes them non-forceful, but flat, right?
Hmm.
So how is it that shape is creating form then?
Well, in the case of the figure, I mean, the figure is not flat; it's three-dimensional. It consists of three-dimensional masses. So the shapes that we see uh, on the figure are actually the outside edges of a form. You
Hmm.
know, so those shapes have volume, and once you're aware of that, you don't draw the volume, but you're thinking about the volume when you draw the shape.
Mm. Yeah, so that's a great note. So thinking, I think that that was great the way you put that. Thinking about volume, right? Thinking about volume as you draw shape.
Indeed, like you always mention, your drawings are a reflection of your thoughts. So if you're thinking form when drawing the shape, then the
Mhm.
shape will have form because
Yeah.
that's what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's interesting. This is so well said. You said this so succinctly, so quickly and clearly. I know that just because I have many contacts, not only in art education but also in the entertainment industry. Uh, so much of the entertainment industry right now is starving for artists that understand shape, but that it comes from volume. One
Mhm.
of their things is like, students aren't really coming out knowing their perspective and structure, and they think that shape is the sort of golden solution without understanding that shape comes from volume itself, right?
Yeah, indeed. I think especially when you look at like TV animation, those designs are deceptively simple, but once you try to pull them off, if you don't draw them with volume in mind, then they will be really flat and the designs will look broken and dysfunctional.
Right. Yeah, I remember there are notes that Glenn Keane had put out online when he was working at Disney, and this was the way he had stated it. He was like, know the shape of the volume, right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Because exactly what you're saying over here, thinking about the volume as you draw the shape, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, I totally agree. And to your point, I think where you clearly, well, the whole drawing has this, of course, but one area, of course, is here where we talked about that turning edge. Whoops.
Yeah,
Not a good
talking
time.
about turning.
Yeah, exactly. Turning drawing. Here's this turning edge, but you didn't draw the line. You just said, I'm going to draw the shape over here, this strap, and its angle change. And not only its angle change is creating it, but you also went from a tapered corner and went wide and then tapered again, right? And that insinuates perspective very quickly, very strongly, right?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, again, after practicing force form, these things become second nature. You know, I didn't even have to consciously think about it.
Hmm.
I just visualized it and drew it.
Right. Yeah, no, it's really cool.
You see differently. You kind of like see on a higher level.
Mhm. Yeah, simpler level, right? Of, oh yeah, this is just bigger here and smaller there, right?
Yeah,
So I guess, you know, perspective is in chapter 2, but what I want everyone to be aware of is at a very high level abstract, uh, perspective is created out of two lines that converge, right? Which is really in essence a triangle. And by Swenley creating these triangles here, he's kind of insinuating that it's almost like there's a vanishing point here and here to this object, right, which is the strap, and it's wider here, and our brain knows that it gets bigger, it gets closer to us, and it pinches as it gets smaller, and here we are going around this leg with this strap because of it.
yeah, precisely.
Yeah, yeah, it's very good. It's really efficient and yeah, just efficient and clear, right?
Yeah, indeed. And it also talking about efficiency, it also allows you to draw faster. You know, instead of having to go through first you draw the gesture, then you put the tubes and cylinders and boxes on top. You know, you just draw the shape, and it contains everything.
Yeah, no, it's true. So the one thing we haven't talked about, and here we are in this shape chapter, is the shapes themselves, right? So you can see here that you created many forceful shapes. I feel like I want to, well, here we go. You're going to rotate back and let's talk about it. So um, the first main one, I guess, that really stands out for me just because it's the largest is this guy, right? So you have the straight of the bottom and the curve of the top. And that
Mhm.
straight to curve happens to perfectly and seamlessly connect us with with the upper leg, right? So we have lower leg, upper leg, and it kind of looks something like this, right?
Yes, I'm creating rhythm with shape instead of just a line.
All right, RHYTHM, rhythm with shape. Yeah, so the big jump that I try to inspire students with here is the force books are so much about the line, and that line equals an idea, and the idea equals force. And yet, believe it or not, when you get to shape, the line is actually in service of creating force shape, right? Which
Yes.
to me abstractly always takes us up the pyramid an extra step. You know, it's like, all right, we're already drawing like at a pretty high level. Well, guess what? Now, not even really thinking about the lines. I'm just trying to get to shapes, right?
Hmm.
And you specifically, of the people I've taught in my years, you really seem to gravitate towards the shape aspect of force drawing. Is there any particular reason for that?
Well, as we have, I think I mentioned in the past, that's the main reason that I came to study with you. Actually, you know, I got to this place where, first of all, I was my first formal education in drawing was in as an industrial designer.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a very good basis in like constructing forms, you know, spheres, boxes, cylinders,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of stuff. But what was lacking in my work was shape. You know, I saw these artists like drawing characters using purely shapes, and I couldn't do that. So, and you were one of the few teachers I came across that seemed to really teach that very well. So I think that's why I gravitated to it towards it so much, you know, because that's the thing I was wanting to use in my work, but I just didn't know how to use it effectively.
I see. So you were already looking for it. You're just trying to figure out how to really grasp it when you came across, me and force shape design.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Yeah, it is a tricky, it's a very tricky space. As I was saying before, many artists try and jump to force shape before they really know how to draw form and, and force, period.
Hmm.
And it's such a seductive trap to fall into, right? Because then you end up with shapes, but they just stay flat. And you can tell when somebody's drawing with flat shapes and they don't really understand form because the shapes don't create perspective. They don't create structure. And as most of you, I think, know that out here listening to this video, my background comes from Disney animation and in the 2D era of the 90s. And what I learned in working there was, oh, of course we're trying to draw shapes that create form, because in 2D you don't want lots of lines. You're trying to be as efficient as possible because you have to animate every line that shows up, right? And then you start to connect. Oh yeah, shapes are creating form, right? Like that is enough. I don't need all the surface line work that, let's say, we did in chapter 2. I just need to know how shapes now will create those structures.
Indeed. And all the service lines that we did in chapter 2 allow you, they kind of like allow you to be more efficient because you have studied the surface so well. You know which line or where to draw the line in order to show the form efficiently
Hmm.
instead of having to draw all the lines
Hmm.
like in chapter 2.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed the videos for chapter 1, 2, and 3 of the book. And we hope you enjoy the book. And check out drawingforce.com to learn from Swendley, myself, or Diego. Thanks again.
Yes, thanks, guys.
Yeah, take care.